what he posted on X regarding his latest military meeting. He is saying, quote, there was also a report on work with all partners within the coalition of the willing, Europe, the United States, and other partners. We noted that the pace of the work must be accelerated. The defense component of the security guarantees must be detailed in the near future. What does that mean? This is President Trump weighs in. No set plans for a Putin-Zelenskyy bilateral, but saying Putin is avoiding a meeting. Quote, why? Because he doesn't like him. He doesn't like him. They don't like each other, really. We heard that comment live here on Newsline yesterday. And now U.S. Ambassador to NATO Matthew Whitaker joins us to react to all of this. Ambassador Whitaker, a pleasure to have you today, sir.
Hey, it's good to be with you again. Thank you.
Obviously, diplomacy is delicate, and it does seem to be holding on perhaps by a string. We do know Russia's foreign minister says Russia needs to be involved in these security guarantees. We're closing in on that 2-week mark. President Trump has said he'll know what to do. We know sanctions are still a possibility. As you look at, the next few days as we come to that, President Trump, for the first time, many say yesterday, Ambassador, really dismissed the fact that the meeting is going to happen and really softened his stance on the possibility of it.
Well, first of all, President Trump holds all the cards, and he, he's put tariffs, secondary sanctions on India, and he could do that with other countries that are buying Russian oil. He has obviously he had meetings on Friday and Monday of last week to try to create the conditions so that these two sides could talk. They're exchanging prisoners. They're having some communications at lower levels, but they're going to have to both want to make a deal. And, it appears that Russia continues to kind of want more than Ukraine will agree to. But at the same time, there are conversations going on. And it's while I think it's frustrating that we're so close, yet so far, I think there is still the opportunity to have good communications and potentially a summit between these two leaders to resolve this war. The killing needs to end. The bloodshed needs to end. It is a meat grinder. Thousands of soldiers are dying every day, plus civilians in major cities in Ukraine. And, it's only a matter of time before this gets resolved, and we might as well resolve it sooner than later.
Mm-hmm. There was some news, Ambassador, that U.S. and Russian officials also discussed energy deals on the side, potential incentives for the Kremlin to, get to a table to discuss peace. Steve Witkoff, we know, had made a lot of headway when he was in Moscow. This all, I guess, was discussed during his trip earlier this month as well. But, the Arctic, what type of, things that Putin may look at as getting back into a global economy or being, really pushed out with very difficult sanctions. And this is a significant development. India today is easing its Russian oil slightly with the tariffs about to kick in, which would leave just really China to be the biggest purchaser there. And we know Russia's looking at its crumbling economy domestically. And that's a huge issue to try and parse that if they can't have India buying their oil. It does seem like Prime Minister Modi is siding with the United States here in some way.
Yeah, and obviously, again, Donald Trump, as president of the United States, has seen these opportunities to try to get both sides to the table. In this case, putting these tariffs on India, who are buying Russian oil, certainly got their attention. And but at the same time, I spent today here in Lithuania, and what I can tell you is that looking across the border to Belarus and Kaliningrad, they know exactly, what Russia is to deal with. They know that NATO and our allies need to be strong because that strength is what's going to bring peace. And they also, I tell you, our European allies are committed to the cause that is the war in Ukraine and supporting Ukraine. And whether that's with drone technologies, co-production, with money, coordinating the priority Ukraine requirements list for President Trump, I see firsthand how much our European allies plus Canada want to support Ukraine. So, there's a lot of things, a lot of leverage that Donald Trump has brought and can continue to bring. And so he will see if there's a deal to be made. He's a consummate deal maker and peacemaker.